Zara's crystalline laugh echoed through the academy's dining hall as she watched the human stumble with his food tray. The pale-skinned creature moved awkwardly between the tables, his simple brown coveralls marking him as one of the maintenance staff. His dark hair was messy, and grease stains decorated his sleeves like badges of mediocrity. "Look at that pathetic thing," Zara whispered to her companion, Vex, whose purple tentacles writhed with amusement. "How did such a weak species ever make it off their little mud ball?" The Galactic Academy of Sciences housed the brightest minds from across 47 different worlds. Zara herself was a prodigy from Zelthara Prime, where her people's advanced neural networks allowed them to process information at speeds that would liquefy most organic brains. At only 23 cycles old, she had already earned degrees in quantum mechanics and stellar engineering. Her blue-scaled skin shimmered with pride as she observed the clumsy human navigate around a group of insectoid Crec students. The human's name was Marcus, though Zara had never bothered to learn it. She only knew him as the quiet maintenance worker who cleaned the laboratories after her experiments. He never spoke unless spoken to, always keeping his eyes downcast when the academic elite passed by. To Zara, he represented everything backward about his species. "Did you know," Zara continued, stabbing at her nutrient cube with unnecessary force, "that humans still use primitive chemical propulsion to reach orbit? My people were exploring other star systems when we were still in our equivalent of their Stone Age." Vexi Stocks focused on Marcus as he carefully cleaned a spill near the Andromedian table. "He does seem rather unremarkable. I heard from Professor Keth that humans only recently discovered faster-than-light travel. Apparently, they stumbled across it by accident while trying to create better weapons." "Typical," Zara snorted. "Violence and chance. That's all they understand." Marcus finished cleaning and moved toward the kitchen area. As he passed near their table, Zara deliberately stuck out her foot. The human stumbled slightly but caught himself before falling. He looked up at her for just a moment, and Zara was surprised by the intelligence she saw in his brown eyes. There was something there that didn't match his lowly position. "Watch where you're going, maintenance drone," she said loudly enough for nearby tables to hear. Marcus nodded quietly and continued on his way without a word. Zara felt a moment of disappointment. She had expected some kind of reaction, maybe anger or embarrassment. Instead, he had simply accepted the humiliation with an almost practiced ease. "You're cruel, Zara," said Lyran, a quiet student from the peaceful Harmony worlds. Her golden fur rippled with distress. "He has done nothing to deserve such treatment." "He exists," Zara replied coldly. "That's enough. His species holds back galactic progress with their primitive thinking and violent tendencies. The sooner they accept their place as laborers and servants, the better for everyone." The conversation moved on to their upcoming exams, but Zara found her attention drifting back to the human. Something about his reaction bothered her. Most species, when confronted with superior beings, showed proper deference mixed with obvious resentment. Marcus had shown neither. He had looked at her with what seemed almost like pity. Later that evening, Zara worked late in the quantum physics laboratory, running simulations on her thesis project about dimensional fold manipulation. The equations were proving more complex than expected, and frustration mounted as each test failed to achieve the theoretical results. The laboratory door chimed softly as someone entered. Zara looked up to see Marcus pushing a cleaning cart, his head down as usual. She sighed in annoyance. "I'm still working here," she said sharply. "Come back later." Marcus paused and looked up. "I'm sorry, but Professor Felt requested the lab be cleaned tonight. There's an inspection tomorrow morning." His voice was soft but clear, with an accent Zara couldn't place. Most humans she had encountered spoke in rough, crude tones that reflected their barbaric nature. Marcus spoke with an almost musical quality that seemed at odds with his appearance. "Fine, but stay out of my way and don't touch anything important," Zara said, turning back to her console. As Marcus began his work, Zara found herself stealing glances at him. He moved through the lab with surprising efficiency, his movements economical and precise. When he cleaned around the sensitive equipment, his touch was gentle and knowledgeable. Most maintenance workers treated the devices like simple furniture, but Marcus seemed to understand what each machine did. "You know what that is?" Zara asked suddenly, noticing Marcus pause at her dimensional fold generator. Marcus looked up, seemingly surprised to be addressed directly. It appears to be a modified Heisenberg field manipulator, configured for spatial distortion experiments. Zara's mouth fell open. The technical terms rolled off his tongue with casual familiarity. She had expected him to grunt something about science stuff like most menial laborers. "How do you know that?" she demanded. Marcus shrugged, returning to his cleaning. "I read sometimes." "Read what?" "Technical manuals are restricted to academic personnel. The public library has older texts available to everyone. I find physics interesting." Zara stared at him in disbelief. A human maintenance worker studying theoretical physics in his spare time? It was like discovering a Crex trying to compose poetry. "What level of education do you have?" she asked. Marcus paused in his work. "I finished basic schooling on Earth before coming here." "That's it? Basic schooling?" Zara laughed. "And, you think you can understand dimensional mechanics? I have advanced degrees from the finest institutions in the galaxy." "I'm sure you do," Marcus said quietly, continuing his work. There was something in his tone that irritated Zara. No defensiveness, no anger at being mocked. Just a calm acceptance that seemed almost condescending. "You couldn't possibly understand what I'm working on," she continued. "This research involves mathematical concepts that would fry a human brain." Marcus nodded agreeably. "You're probably right." His easy agreement only made Zara more annoyed. She wanted him to argue, to show some sign that her superiority affected him. Instead, he acted like nothing she said mattered. "I'm trying to create stable dimensional folds that could revolutionize space travel," she said, fishing for some reaction. "The applications would make faster-than-light travel look like crawling." "Interesting," Marcus said, wiping down a counter. "Have you considered the quantum resonance cascade effects?" Zara froze. Quantum resonance cascades were an advanced theoretical concept that most graduate students struggled with. She had been wrestling with exactly that problem for weeks. "What did you just say?" Marcus looked up, seeming to realize he had said something wrong. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have spoken out of turn." "No, explain what you meant about quantum resonance cascades." Marcus set down his cleaning cloth and approached her console. As he moved closer, Zara noticed for the first time how he carried himself. Despite his hunched posture and downcast eyes, there was something graceful about his movements. His hands, though stained with cleaning chemicals, were long-fingered and steady. "I was just thinking," Marcus said carefully, "that when you fold space, the quantum fields don't always align properly. The energy differential could create cascading failures that tear the fold apart." Zara's mind raced. She pulled up her simulation data and ran through the failure reports. Every single one showed exactly the kind of quantum resonance cascade Marcus had described. How had a maintenance worker identified the core problem that had stumped her for weeks? "How do you know about that?" she whispered. Marcus stepped back, his subservient manner returning. "I should finish my cleaning. I don't want to disturb your important work." "Wait," Zara said, grabbing his arm. His skin was warm, and she felt calluses from manual labor. "Answer my question. How do you know about quantum resonance cascades?" Marcus looked down at her hand on his arm, then back up at her face. For a moment, his carefully constructed mask slipped, and Zara saw something that made her blood run cold. Intelligence. Not just basic intelligence, but a depth of understanding that rivaled her own professor's. "I told you," he said softly. "I read." But Zara was beginning to suspect that Marcus was reading far more than library books. The way he had analyzed her equipment, identified her theoretical problems, and explained complex physics suggested knowledge that came from direct experience, not casual study. "What's your full name?" she asked. "Marcus Chen." "Where on earth are you from?" Marcus hesitated just long enough for Zara to notice. "A small town." "You wouldn't know it. Try me." "I really should finish my work." Zara stepped in front of his cleaning cart, blocking his path. Her earlier amusement had transformed into burning curiosity. Something was very wrong with this picture. Maintenance workers didn't casually discuss quantum physics. They didn't move with practiced precision around sensitive equipment. They didn't speak with the calm confidence of someone accustomed to being the smartest person in the room. "You're not just a maintenance worker, are you?" she asked. Marcus met her gaze for a long moment. In the bright laboratory lights, Zara could see details she had missed before. His brown eyes had flecks of gold in them, and tiny lines around the corners suggested someone older than she had first assumed. His hands, despite the calluses, had the steady precision of someone used to delicate work. "I clean laboratories and maintain equipment," he said finally. "That's what my job assignment says." "That's not what I asked." Marcus smiled then, and Zara was surprised by how it transformed his face. The humble, downtrodden expression vanished, replaced by something that looked almost amused. "You're very persistent," he said. "It's an admirable quality in a researcher." The way he said researcher made it sound like a title he was familiar with. Zara felt a chill of uncertainty. What if she had been wrong about everything? What if Marcus wasn't just some primitive human who had stumbled into a menial job? "Who are you really?" she whispered. Marcus considered her question for a long moment. Then, he reached into his coverall pocket and pulled out a small device Zara didn't recognize. It was sleek and metallic, with no visible buttons or displays. He held it up and spoke a single word in what sounded like standard galactic, but with an accent she couldn't identify. The device projected a holographic display that made Zara's breath catch in her throat. It showed technical specifications for a dimensional fold engine that was decades ahead of anything she had seen. The mathematical formulas were so advanced that she could barely follow them, and the theoretical framework suggested an understanding of physics that surpassed even her professors. "Impossible," she breathed. "Humans don't have technology like that." Marcus deactivated the device and returned it to his pocket. "You're right," he said quietly. "Humans don't." The implications hit Zara like a physical blow. If Marcus wasn't using human technology, then either he had stolen it from another species, or he wasn't entirely human himself. "What are you?" she asked. "That," Marcus said, returning to his cleaning cart, "is a very complicated question. And one I'm not authorized to answer fully." "Authorized by whom?" Marcus's smile returned, but this time it held secrets that made Zara's advanced intellect feel suddenly small and naive. "Let's just say that your assumptions about my people may be somewhat limited," he said. "The galaxy is a much more complex place than most academics realize." As Marcus wheeled his cart toward the door, Zara stood frozen in the middle of her laboratory. Everything she thought she knew about humans, about the galactic hierarchy, about her own superiority, had just been turned upside down by a maintenance worker with calloused hands and secrets that could reshape her understanding of the universe. The door chimed softly as Marcus left, and Zara was alone with her thoughts and a growing realization that she had just encountered something far more significant than a simple human janitor. The question was no longer why Marcus was working as maintenance staff, but what he was really doing at the Galactic Academy of Sciences. And why he was hiding his true nature from everyone around him. Sleep eluded Zara that night. She lay in her dormitory pod, staring at the ceiling while her mind churned through possibilities. Marcus's casual display of advanced technology had shattered her worldview like glass. If humans possessed such sophisticated devices, why did they maintain the facade of being a primitive species? More disturbing still was the possibility that Marcus wasn't entirely human at all. By dawn, Zara had made a decision. She was going to uncover the truth about Marcus Chan, regardless of where that investigation led. Her first stop was the Academy's personnel database. As a senior student with research privileges, Zara had access to basic employment records. She pulled up Marcus's file and immediately noticed how sparse it was. Place of birth listed as Earth Colony 7, previous employment listed as various maintenance positions, and emergency contact listed as none available. The photograph showed the same unremarkable man she knew, but now Zara noticed how carefully neutral his expression was. "This is completely fabricated," she muttered to herself. Real personnel files contain detailed histories, medical records, psychological evaluations. Marcus's file looked like someone had created a placeholder and hoped no one would look too closely. Her next step was more risky. Using her access to the Academy's communication systems, Zara sent a discreet inquiry to the Terran Colonial Authority, asking for verification of Marcus Chen's background. If he was really from Earth Colony 7, there would be records of his birth, education, and transit to the Academy. While waiting for a response, Zara decided to observe Marcus more carefully. She volunteered for extra laboratory time, staying late in different facilities where she knew he would be cleaning. What she discovered over the next few days made her initial suspicions seem naive. Marcus moved through the academy like he owned it. Oh, he maintained his humble facade when other students were around, but when he thought he was unobserved, his behavior changed completely. Zara watched from hiding as he examined equipment with the eye of an expert, not a maintenance worker. She saw him pause at certain devices and nod with satisfaction, as if checking on their condition rather than simply cleaning them. Most telling was what happened when he encountered actual technical problems. The Crec students in Laboratory 7 were struggling with a malfunctioning graviton detector. They had called for a technician, but Marcus arrived first for his cleaning rounds. Zara watched from the observation deck as the insectoid students complained loudly about their equipment failure. Marcus approached the device and spent several minutes examining it. Then, with movements so subtle that the Crecs didn't notice, he made a minor adjustment to the primary coupling. The detector hummed back to life, displaying proper readings. The Crecs celebrated their lucky fix while Marcus quietly continued his cleaning. The technical skill required for the repair would have challenged Zara's professors. Marcus had diagnosed and corrected the problem in minutes, making it look accidental. He wasn't just familiar with the equipment, he understood it better than most of the Academy's faculty. 3 days into her investigation, Zara received a response to her inquiry about Marcus's background. The message was brief and chilling: no records exist for Marcus Chen from Earth Colony 7. Furthermore, Earth Colony 7 was abandoned 40 years ago due to atmospheric contamination. No current residents. Zara stared at the message for several minutes before deleting it. Marcus's entire identity was a lie, constructed well enough to fool the Academy's admission systems but not deep enough to withstand serious investigation. The question remained: who was he really, and what was he doing here? That evening, Zara positioned herself in the advanced physics laboratory where Marcus would be working late. She had prepared carefully, bringing her most sophisticated scanning equipment and setting up recording devices. If Marcus was going to reveal more about his true nature, she wanted evidence. Marcus arrived at his usual time, pushing his cleaning cart with the same humble demeanor. But Zara was watching more carefully now, and she noticed things that had escaped her attention before. His coveralls were standard issue, but they fit him perfectly, suggesting they had been tailored rather than grabbed from a supply room. His cleaning tools were all top-of-the-line models, far better than what the Academy typically provided to maintenance staff. As Marcus worked, Zara activated her scanners. The results made her gasp out loud. Marcus looked up at the sound. Is someone there? Zara tried to stay hidden, but it was too late. Marcus set down his cleaning cloth and walked directly to her hiding spot behind the equipment storage unit. "Hello, Zara," he said calmly. "I was wondering when you would try something like this." Zara emerged from hiding, her scanner still clutched in her trembling hand. "The readings," she whispered. "They're impossible." Marcus glanced at her device. "What do your sensors tell you?" "According to this, you're not entirely organic. There are metallic components integrated into your bone structure, and your neural activity is generating electromagnetic patterns I've never seen before." Zara looked up at him with wide eyes. "What are you?" Marcus sighed and sat down on a nearby stool. For the first time since she had known him, he looked tired. "You really can't leave this alone, can you?" he asked. "I had hoped that maintaining a low profile would be sufficient, but your curiosity is quite remarkable. Answer my question. Are you human or not?" "I am human," Marcus said carefully. "But I'm not the kind of human that most people know about." "That's impossible." Humans are a single species with documented characteristics. There aren't different varieties. Marcus smiled sadly. Zara, you're brilliant, but your education has been somewhat limited. The galaxy is full of species that aren't quite what they appear to be. Did you know that the peaceful harmony worlds your friend Lyran comes from were actually engineered by an ancient race that modified their genetics for perfect empathy? Or that the Andromedians everyone fears so much are actually refugees from a war that happened so long ago that they've forgotten why they're afraid? Zara's world shifted again. That's classified information. How do you know about genetic modifications and ancient wars? Because my job requires me to know about such things. Your job? You're a maintenance worker. Marcus stood up and walked to one of the laboratory windows, looking out at the academy grounds. In the moonlight, his silhouette looked different somehow. More substantial. Tell me, Zara, what do you know about the Galactic Coordination Council? Zara frowned. They're a myth. A story about some secret organization that supposedly watches over galactic civilization, but there's no evidence they actually exist. No evidence that's available to the general public, Marcus corrected. But they do exist, and they've been maintaining peace between species for over 3,000 years. Someone has to monitor potential conflicts, identify emerging threats, and occasionally intervene when necessary. The implications of what Marcus was suggesting hit Zara like a thunderbolt. You're saying you work for them? That you're some kind of spy? I prefer the term observer, Marcus said. And, before you ask, no, I cannot prove this to you without authorization from my superiors. But, I can tell you that my presence here is not coincidental. What does that mean? Marcus turned back to face her. It means that certain concerning developments have been detected at this academy, and I was sent to investigate. Zara felt a chill that had nothing to do with the laboratory's climate control. What kind of developments? Information theft. Someone has been accessing classified research data from the Academy's quantum physics department and selling it to unauthorized buyers. The stolen information includes theoretical weapons designs and advanced propulsion systems. That's impossible. The security protocols would prevent anyone from accessing that kind of data without proper authorization. Unless the thief had help from someone with administrative privileges, Marcus said quietly. Someone who could alter access logs and cover their tracks. The full scope of what Marcus was suggesting began to dawn on Zara. You think a faculty member is involved? I think several faculty members are involved, along with at least one member of the Academy's governing board. This operation has been running for months, possibly years. Zara sank into a chair, her legs suddenly weak. And you've been posing as a maintenance worker to investigate this? It's an excellent cover. Maintenance staff have access to every area of the academy, including private offices and restricted laboratories. People ignore us, treat us as invisible. We see and hear things that no one expects us to notice. The equipment, Zara said suddenly. You weren't cleaning it. You were examining it for evidence. Marcus nodded. Some of the stolen research involved experimental devices. I've been checking to see which equipment has been tampered with or accessed outside of normal protocols. And, you found evidence? Quite a bit. Someone has been making unauthorized copies of experimental data and physical scans of prototype devices. They've been very careful, but not quite careful enough to fool someone who knows what to look for. Zara's mind raced through the implications. Who is it? Which faculty members are involved? Marcus hesitated. I can't share that information with you. In fact, this entire conversation is highly irregular. My mission parameters specifically forbid revealing my identity or purpose to Academy personnel. Then, why are you telling me this? Marcus studied her face for a long moment. Because you stumbled onto something that could compromise my investigation, and because I think you might be in danger. Danger? From whom? From whoever is behind this theft operation. They've already demonstrated that they're willing to use violence to protect their activities. 3 researchers who got too close to the truth have suffered accidents in the past year. Zara felt the blood drain from her face. You think they might try to hurt me? I think your investigation into my background has likely been noticed by the same people who are monitoring Academy communications for security threats. Your inquiry to the Terran Colonial Authority triggered certain automated alerts. The scanner in Zara's hand suddenly felt very heavy. What do I do? Marcus walked over to his cleaning cart and pulled out a device similar to the one he had shown her before. He activated it and handed it to Zara. This is a personal communicator, quantum encrypted and completely secure. If anything unusual happens, if you notice anyone showing unexpected interest in your activities, or if you simply feel threatened, use this to contact me immediately. Zara took the device, marveling at its compact design and obvious sophistication. This technology is decades ahead of anything I've seen. The Coordination Council has access to research from every member species, Marcus explained. Our equipment represents the best available technology in the galaxy. Member species? How many species are part of this council? That information is classified. But I can tell you that humans have been active members for much longer than the public knows. Another revelation that challenged everything Zara thought she knew. How is that possible? Humans only achieved faster than light travel 50 years ago. Marcus smiled. According to public records, yes. The reality is somewhat different. Different how? Humans have been exploring the galaxy for over 2 centuries. We made contact with other species much earlier than anyone realizes, and we've been working behind the scenes to maintain galactic stability ever since. Zara stared at him in amazement. Your entire species has been pretending to be primitive newcomers? Not the entire species. Most humans genuinely are recent arrivals to galactic civilization. But a select group has been operating on behalf of the Coordination Council for generations, developing the technology and skills necessary to serve as observers and peacekeepers. And the genetic modifications my scanner detected? Standard enhancements for Council operatives. Improved physical capabilities, enhanced neural processing, extended lifespan, resistance to various environmental hazards. Nothing that changes our essential humanity, but enough to allow us to operate effectively in any environment. The scope of the deception was staggering. How many of you are there? Enough to do our job, Marcus said evasively. But not so many that our existence threatens the balance of galactic civilization. Zara looked down at the communicator in her hands. Why are you trusting me with this information? I could expose everything. You could, Marcus agreed. But I don't think you will. Why not? Because you're a scientist, and scientists understand the value of truth. The truth is that galactic civilization is more fragile than most people realize. Without the Council's work, we would have had dozens of interspecies wars by now. Millions of beings would have died in conflicts that were prevented by quiet intervention and careful diplomacy. Marcus picked up his cleaning supplies and prepared to leave. Also, because you're beginning to understand that your assumptions about human inferiority were based on incomplete information. My people aren't the primitive newcomers you believed us to be. As Marcus moved toward the door, Zara called after him. What happens now? Now you continue your studies and try to act normally. Don't investigate my background any further, don't share what I've told you with anyone, and don't do anything that might alert the thieves to my presence here. And if I can't do that? If I need to know more? Marcus paused at the doorway. Then, use the communicator and ask. But understand that some questions have answers that could put you in considerable danger. After he left, Zara sat alone in the laboratory for another hour, staring at the quantum communicator and trying to process everything she had learned. The maintenance worker she had mocked and humiliated was actually a highly trained operative from an ancient human organization dedicated to galactic peace. Her own species, which she had considered vastly superior to humans, was apparently under the protection of the very beings she had dismissed as primitive. But most unsettling of all was the realization that her own academy, her safe haven of learning and research, harbored thieves and murderers who wouldn't hesitate to eliminate anyone who threatened their operation. As Zara finally made her way back to her dormitory, she couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching her. Every shadow seemed to hide potential threats, every footstep in the corridor could belong to someone with violent intentions. She clutched Marcus's communicator tightly and wondered if her curiosity had just signed her own death warrant. For the next week, Zara tried to maintain the appearance of normalcy while watching everything around her with new eyes. Every interaction with faculty members made her wonder if she was speaking to a traitor. Every casual conversation with fellow students left her analyzing their words for hidden meanings. The paranoia was exhausting, but she couldn't shake Marcus's warning about the danger she might be facing. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Zara was working late in the quantum mechanics laboratory when she heard voices from Professor Keth's office next door. The walls were supposed to be soundproof, but a small maintenance panel had been left open, creating an acoustic gap that carried whispered conversations. "The shipment needs to go out tonight," she heard Professor Keth saying. "Our buyers are getting impatient." "The security sweeps have been more frequent lately," replied a voice Zara recognized as Dr. Felt, the department head. "That maintenance worker has been asking questions about equipment access logs." Zara's blood ran cold. They were talking about Marcus. "Which maintenance worker?" Professor Keth asked. "The human. Chun. He's been too observant for a simple janitor. I think we should eliminate him before he discovers something actionable." Zara pressed closer to the wall, straining to hear every word. "Are you certain he's a threat?" Dr. Felt asked. "Killing Academy personnel will draw unwanted attention. I've run background checks on him. His entire identity is fabricated. Shen doesn't exist in any official human records. That suggests he's either a criminal hiding from authorities or some kind of undercover operative." "Undercover? Investigating what?" "Us, obviously. Someone knows about our operation and sent him to gather evidence." Zara heard chairs scraping as the conspirators moved around the office. "How do we handle this?" Professor Keth asked. "Same way we handled the others who got too curious. An accident during routine maintenance. Chemical exposure, perhaps, or an electrical malfunction. These things happen in laboratories." "When?" "Tomorrow night. I'll arrange for him to be working alone in the hazardous materials storage area. A single mistake with the containment systems, and problem solved." Zara backed away from the wall, her heart pounding. They were planning to murder Marcus, and they intended to make it look like an accident. She had to warn him, but she couldn't risk using normal communication channels if the conspirators were monitoring Academy systems. She pulled out Marcus's quantum communicator and activated it the way he had shown her. A soft chime indicated an active connection. "Marcus," she whispered urgently. "I need to see you immediately. It's about the investigation." His response came back within seconds. "Laboratory 12 in 10 minutes. Come alone and make sure you're not followed." Zara gathered her things and made her way through the academy corridors, checking constantly for signs of surveillance. She took a circuitous route through multiple buildings, using her student access card to pass through areas that would be difficult to monitor. Laboratory 12 was one of the older facilities, used primarily for storage of outdated equipment. Marcus was waiting for her when she arrived, but he looked different. Gone was the humble maintenance worker persona. He stood straight and alert, his eyes constantly scanning for potential threats. "What did you discover?" he asked without preamble. Zara quickly relayed everything she had overheard from Professor Keth's office. As she spoke, Marcus's expression grew increasingly grim. "They plan to kill you tomorrow night," she finished. "They know your identity is false, and they think you're investigating them." "They're correct on both counts," Marcus said. "Though they have no idea how accurate their suspicions really are." "What are you going to do?" Marcus pulled out a more sophisticated communication device and spoke several sentences in a language Zara didn't recognize. The response came back immediately in the same alien tongue. "My backup team is moving into position," he explained. "We're going to accelerate the timeline and take the conspirators into custody tonight." "Tonight? But don't you need more evidence?" "We have enough evidence to act." The conversation you overheard, combined with the physical proof I've gathered over the past months, will be sufficient for prosecution under Galactic Council authority. Zara felt a surge of excitement. You're going to arrest them right here at the academy? We are. But, first, I need you to do something that might be dangerous. What? Marcus handed her a small recording device. I need you to return to that laboratory and try to record more of their conversation. If they're planning to ship stolen research tonight, they'll need to discuss the logistics. Those details will help us intercept their entire distribution network. Zara took the device with trembling hands. What if they discover me? Don't let them discover you. If anything goes wrong, activate your communicator and my team will intervene immediately. Your team? How many of you are there? Marcus smiled. More than you might expect. The Galactic Coordination Council takes research theft very seriously, especially when it involves weapons technology. Zara made her way back toward Professor Keth's office, her nerves stretched tight with tension. The corridor was empty, but she could see light under the office door and hear the murmur of continued conversation. She positioned herself at the same maintenance panel and activated the recording device. The conversation inside was now focused on practical details of moving stolen data. The buyer wants everything related to dimensional fold weapons, she heard Dr. Felt saying. They're particularly interested in the theoretical framework for planet-killing applications. Zara's blood turned to ice. Dimensional fold weapons that could destroy entire planets? She had thought the theft was about propulsion technology or defensive systems. The idea that someone was stealing research for weapons of mass destruction made this situation far worse than she had imagined. The data crystals are already prepared, Professor Keth replied. Our contact will pick them up at the freight transport hub at midnight. What about payment? 50 million credits, transferred to the usual accounts. Enough to fund our research for the next decade. And enough to buy new identities when this operation eventually gets discovered. Zara heard footsteps approaching the door and quickly moved away from the wall. Professor Keth emerged from his office, followed by Dr. Felt and 2 other faculty members Zara didn't recognize. They walked past her without acknowledgement, treating her as just another late-night student. After they disappeared down the corridor, Zara activated her communicator. I got it, she whispered. They're moving stolen weapons research to the freight hub at midnight. Excellent work, Marcus replied. Return to your dormitory now and stay there until morning. Do not leave your room for any reason. What about you? Are you going to stop them? That's exactly what we're going to do. And, Zara? Thank you. Your help has been invaluable. Zara made her way back to her dormitory, but sleep was impossible. She lay in her bed, listening to every sound in the corridor outside, wondering what was happening at the freight transport hub. At exactly midnight, she heard the distant wail of security sirens. Emergency lights began flashing outside her window, and she could see Academy security vehicles racing across the campus. Whatever Marcus and his team were doing, it was happening now. The sirens continued for over an hour before finally falling silent. Zara waited anxiously for news, but the Academy's communication systems had been shut down for emergency maintenance. It wasn't until the next morning that she learned what had happened. The official announcement stated that several faculty members had been arrested for violations of galactic security protocols. The details were classified, but rumors spread quickly through the student body. Some said it was about stolen research, others claimed it involved weapons sales to hostile species. Zara attended her classes as usual, but she found it difficult to concentrate. She kept watching for Marcus, but he didn't appear for his usual maintenance rounds. As the day progressed, she began to worry that something had gone wrong. That evening, as she was returning to her dormitory, someone stepped out of the shadows near the entrance. It was Marcus, but he looked different again. His coveralls were gone, replaced by a sophisticated uniform she didn't recognize. The fabric seemed to shift color slightly in the light, and various devices were attached to his belt. Hello, Zara, he said with a smile that was completely unlike his previous humble demeanor. Marcus. I was worried something had happened to you. Quite the opposite. The operation was completely successful. We arrested 7 conspirators, including 4 faculty members and 3 off-world buyers. We also recovered enough evidence to dismantle an entire network of research thieves operating across multiple star systems. Zara stared at his new appearance. You look different. This is what I actually look like when I'm not pretending to be a maintenance worker. The uniform is standard issue for Coordination Council field operatives. So your mission here is finished? My mission is finished, yes. But I wanted to speak with you before I left. They walked to a quiet area of the campus where they could talk without being overheard. Marcus seemed more relaxed than she had ever seen him, as if a great weight had been lifted from his shoulders. You saved lives, he told her. If we hadn't moved when we did, those weapons designs would have been sold to species that would have used them to destroy entire civilizations. I just overheard a conversation. You did all the real work. I gathered evidence, but I never would have learned about their immediate plans without your help. Sometimes the smallest actions have the greatest consequences. Zara looked at him thoughtfully. Can I ask you something? Of course. When I first met you, when I mocked you and treated you badly, why didn't you react? Most people would have been angry or hurt. Marcus considered the question carefully. Because I understood that your behavior was based on incomplete information. You had been taught that humans were primitive and inferior, so naturally you treated me accordingly. I couldn't be angry at you for acting on beliefs that seemed perfectly reasonable given what you knew. But it must have been frustrating. Sometimes, Marcus admitted. But it was also informative. Watching how different species interact with humans when they think we're helpless tells us a lot about their true nature. Most species, like yours, are decent people who simply lack accurate information. Others reveal prejudices that could become dangerous under the right circumstances. And, now? How do you see me now? Marcus smiled. Now I see a brilliant young scientist who had the courage to question her assumptions and risk her own safety to do the right thing. Your species may have advanced neural processing abilities, but wisdom and integrity are much rarer qualities. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, looking out over the academy campus where students from dozens of different worlds pursued their education in relative safety. What happens now? Zara asked. Now you continue your studies and become the excellent researcher you're meant to be. The galaxy needs people like you, people who ask difficult questions and aren't satisfied with easy answers. And what happens to you? I return to my regular duties with the Coordination Council. There are other situations that require investigation, other threats to galactic stability that need to be addressed. Will I see you again? Marcus handed her a small device similar to her communicator but more sophisticated. If you ever need to contact the Council, if you discover something that threatens galactic peace, or if you simply want to share an interesting scientific discovery, use this. Someone will always be listening. Someone, but not necessarily you? Probably not me specifically. I'll be assigned to other missions in other places. But the Council has a long memory, and they take note of people who prove themselves to be allies. I suspect our paths will cross again someday. As Marcus prepared to leave, Zara had one final question. The technology you showed me, the advanced devices and genetic modifications, how far ahead of public knowledge is human science really? Marcus paused, considering how much to reveal. Let me put it this way, he said finally. The primitive chemical rockets that everyone thinks represent the height of human technology? We were using those for interplanetary transport 300 years ago. The faster-than-light drives that everyone believes we recently discovered by accident? We've had them for 2 centuries and have improved them far beyond what any other species currently possesses. Zara's mind reeled at the implications. Your entire civilization is centuries more advanced than anyone realizes? Not our entire civilization. Most humans really are exactly what they appear to be. But there's a subset of our population that has been developing in secret, guided by the Coordination Council and enhanced by technologies shared between member species. We've become something new while remaining essentially human. why maintain the deception? Why not reveal your true capabilities? Marcus looked out at the stars visible above the academy. Because the galaxy isn't ready for that truth yet. Most species barely tolerate humans as we appear to be now. If they knew we were actually the most advanced military and technological power in known space, some would panic and start wars they couldn't win. Others would try to ally with us for the wrong reasons. But, eventually the truth will come out. Eventually, yes. When the galaxy is more stable, when species have learned to work together more effectively, when the need for secret guardians is reduced. But, that day is still far in the future. Marcus extended his hand in the human gesture of farewell. Zara took it, noticing again how steady and capable his hands were. Goodbye, Zara. Thank you for teaching me that even the most prejudiced individuals can change when presented with new evidence. It's a lesson I'll remember. Thank you for teaching me that the galaxy is far more complex and wonderful than I ever imagined. Marcus walked away into the darkness, and, within moments he seemed to vanish completely. Zara stood alone, looking up at the stars and thinking about all the secrets they held. She returned to her studies with renewed purpose, but everything was different now. She no longer saw other species as superior or inferior, but as part of a vast, interconnected community that was more fragile and more carefully maintained than anyone realized. She understood that beneath the surface of normal galactic civilization, guardians worked in secret to preserve peace and prevent catastrophe. And, sometimes, those guardians looked like humble maintenance workers who cleaned laboratories and were ignored by everyone around them. Months later, when Zara had graduated with highest honors and begun her own research career, she would sometimes find herself watching maintenance staff more carefully. She wondered which of them might be more than they appeared, which ordinary-seeming individuals might be protecting civilizations that never even knew they were in danger. The universe, she had learned, was full of heroes who preferred to remain unrecognized, working in the shadows to preserve the light for everyone else. And, the most remarkable thing of all was that the species she had once dismissed as primitive and worthless had spent centuries quietly protecting everyone, including her own people, from threats they never knew existed. Humanity, it turned out, was the guardian species of the galaxy. They had simply chosen to hide that fact from everyone, including themselves.